It would have been almost impossible, I would have said to you, for any event at all in New Zealand to eclipse the ongoing psychodrama that is Te Pāti Māori's civil war and their hillbilly whānau feud. Especially as the Greens are now the proxy holders of the votes of the outcast Te Pāti Māori MPs, have disappeared, it would appear, and no one knows, although they are still receiving their rather large taxpayer-funded emoluments to do nothing. They are New Zealand's, I would suggest to you, highest paid beneficiaries. But then don't underestimate the ability of another agency of the state to appear, if it's possible, even more corrupt, more dysfunctional, and yet far more important in the consequences to New Zealand society. Compared to the tarantism, that's the only word to describe it, the tarantism of Te Pāti Māori, the meltdown of public confidence in the New Zealand police is just seismic. It's the most incredible failure of integrity, and its repercussions will sit in every police station, in every police car, in the fabric of every police interaction with the public for days, weeks, and months to come. You know my oft-published criticism of the New Zealand police. I believe that they are, and have always said this to you, institutionally lazy. They are capricious in the way in which they enact the law, and they're unprofessional in their leadership, and I have opined on that on a number of occasions on this show since I have been hosting the platform. They've been weak and woke in their dealings with real criminals and gangs, and it took a political imperative to actually get them to do their job in the most basic of law, if you like, tending functions. They're overbearing and often illogical, though, in their interactions with ordinary and generally responsible citizens. And they have evolved, as I have said to you on a number of occasions, as a law unto themselves, unchecked and unaudited by independent observers and agencies. I've opined on this on a number of occasions. Well, just how bad that rot is was exposed at the Beehive Theatre yesterday afternoon when two no-nonsense cabinet ministers, Judith Collins and Mark Mitchell, released the IPC report into the extramarital relationship and consequences thereof of former Deputy Police Commissioner Jevon McSkimming. In part, I might add, a relationship paid for by the New Zealand taxpayer through the New Zealand Police. Good God, they went after a former Auckland mayor on utilising taxpayer ratepayer funds to do that. Well, taxpayer funds were used to do. In fact, he even got his mistress a job in the New Zealand Police. There's a whole series of details in that particular report that are as shocking as the overall conclusion. But he misused his authority and his relationship with a woman. He's having an extramarital affair, 20 years younger, over 20 years younger, I think, than himself, and he gets her a job in the police. And then the senior leadership of the police, from Commissioner Costa down, seek to protect their woke and corrupt favourite by suggesting that his accuser and ex-lover is in actual fact the real criminal and transgressor in that particular relationship. Oh, it gets worse. I mean, this isn't just extraordinary, though, can I say? This is beyond bewildering and shocking. It's an institutional attempt by the leadership of the New Zealand Police to undermine the most basic of public integrity standards. The affair is almost irrelevant. It's the consequences and the cover-ups that happen post that is just staggering in terms of its undermining of New Zealanders' confidence in the police, which I have to say was hanging by a precipice anyhow. and then to cover up on a grand scale, including this morning's startling revelations that ex-Commissioner Costa deliberately instructed his police staff seconded to the Minister of Police's office, Mark Mitchell, to intercept any and all emails or correspondence related to McSkimming's transgressions and actions and deliberately hide them from the minister. This is betrayal. This isn't just, oh my God, this is bad. Oh my God, this is corruption in high places. This is betrayal. This isn't just corruption. If the Minister of Police can't trust the police to tell him the truth, here's the real question. Why would we? You and I. I mean, if the Minister of Police is lied to, what hope for the rest of us? What hope for the courts? What hope for Parliament? What hope to the person on the side of the road who's just been told you've been speeding? Have I, officer? Are you telling me the truth? You seem to be a group of institutional liars from the top down. This isn't, I have to say, also say, and if anybody wants to go, oh, this is one bad fish in the barrel. No, it's not. This isn't an isolated incident. This isn't a rogue police officer. This isn't a corrupt individual or two who just happened to be the Commissioner of Police and the Deputy Commissioner. Oh, nothing to see here. This is systemic failure on a grand scale. This is the entire leadership structure of the New Zealand Police seeking to undermine the very concepts of justice and professionalism to suit their extraordinarily selfish and deeply political and ideological ends. And then you've also got to add, and it's sort of forgotten in this, the 120 police officers who deliberately falsified breath test reports so that they looked as if they were doing their job when really they weren't. They weren't doing anything. They lied to their employer. Mind you, you could say, couldn't you, those 120 plods out there, listen, we're just taking our lead from the Commissioner and the Deputy Police Commissioner. Oh, and the other Deputy Police the Assistant Commissioner who also covered up, Kura, who's also gone, but unfortunately hasn't taken the shame or the opprobrium with her either. The installation of an Inspector General of Police with proactive powers may have some impact, but I would suggest to you on the basis of what we have seen, heard, read in the last 24 hours, but it's not just that. There's a clear problem. And Jevon McSkimming, I would suggest to you, is just the sharpest point of that particular spear that has struck into the heart of public trust in this country, and I'm not sure can be repaired unless you reform completely the New Zealand Police, you make them much more accountable and responsible for their actions, and you stop this ridiculous cleavage that the Minister of Police can't actually tell them what to do because there's a police act in the middle that suggests that somehow the police could be trusted and shouldn't be the subject of political interference. God, I'd rather have political interference in the New Zealand Police than what we've got at the moment, which is corruption on a grand scale. It defies credulity. I mean, we've looked across the Tasman and we joke about the actions of the police in New South Wales and Victoria. We say, oh gosh, there's corruption for you. Yeah, taking the old backhanders there. This is worse than that. I mean, you can sort of understand on an individual basis, individual detectives, gosh, even individual watch houses maybe in Australia taking corrupt payments from criminals. But this is something else. This is the top. This is the apex. And this is all designed, remember what this was all about and what the aim and intent here was. This was Costa and the leadership of the New Zealand Police determined to put one of their own one of their own ideological own, one of their weak woofter wokesters into the job that succeeded Costa to make sure that all of the ways in which they had undermined the police ideologically over the previous 5 years could continue to be undermined by the same sort of people they are, even if they were watching child pornography and bestiality on a daily basis, and somehow no one picked that up either for 4 years. In fact, the only reason they picked it up, ironically, was due to this 20-something-year-old woman who was given a job by her policeman lover in the New Zealand police, throwing her toys out of the cot at the end of the relationship and making a series of allegations that turned out to be true about her ex-lover and the way in which he had acted and utilised police resources for the purposes of his own personal pleasure. Listen, I'm not affairs in the workplace. I don't care. Just be quietly. I have a very libertarian view about private lives. But the moment that you start to utilize the public purse and the public powers that you have to excuse and to hide the consequences of your private life, which is what Yvonne McSkimming did, you've moved into a realm sport. Every bit as bad, in fact, very much worse, I would suggest to you, than Mayor Brown, Len Brown in Auckland. We all know how that ended. Costa's been suspended now from his job that he was put into. What was he getting? $350,000, $400,000 a year to do a job that, for God's sake, something about social policy or something. Just a stupid job, stupid group of people. It's obviously some sort of, I don't know, slow horses place where they put people that they don't want anymore and still pay them large sums of money. And Costa was one of those. Well, he's even been suspended from that, rightly so. He should face criminal actions for his actions, matters in this, and so should the entire police leadership. I feel very sorry, I have to say, for the 13,000 sworn police officers and non-sworn police officers out there who I can imagine in their police interactions today with the ordinary public are going to have a pretty tough go of it. If I was an ordinary police officer and that was the leadership of my organisation, how would I feel today? I think let down would just be a tiny, microcosm of my feelings, wouldn't it? I'd feeling that I was working in an organisation that I didn't belong in if I was clean, because everybody else seems to be dirty. It is an extraordinary event in the history of this country. Listen, and I'm struggling here for what the motivation was, other than what I've explained to you. The intent to perpetuate an ideology that Costa and all his mates had set up, and to make sure that one of their own, even though they were clearly not suited for the job and clearly had serious character and integrity issues, that they should still end up in that job because we don't want anyone else to know. I would feel extraordinarily aggrieved today, and I imagine Mark Mitchell must be in a world all of his own just at the moment. You could see the barely suppressed fury yesterday afternoon of Judith Collins. Barely suppressed, I might add. But for Mark Mitchell to come into his office as the Minister of Police and to look at the police personnel who are in his office, whose job it is to work for him and be honest and open and all those sorts of things so he can make good and decent decisions on behalf of us all, to look at those police and go, I can't trust you. I can't trust any of you. I can't trust you people at Police National Headquarters. Can I really trust Commissioner Chambers? What's he hiding from me? The thoughts that must go through Mark Mitchell's heads from the Minister of Police to the ordinary police people who do put themselves at risk and who are poorly led, generally institutionally on a daily basis, the thoughts that must be going through theirs as to whether or not they've chosen the right career and whether or not they can stand to be in an organisation that has been allowed to get away with this for so long. In the end, I suppose the one sort of bright spot that you can take from this was a small group, a small cadre of officers within the New Zealand Police who brought the whole house of cards falling down, and the IPCA actually, believe it or not, doing their job. I wouldn't have thought the Independent Police Commissioner's Authority, which never had any confidence in because it's the police investigating themselves. I actually was surprised that they actually got there in the end. So I suppose those are the glimmers, aren't they? Those are the sort of the the suggestion that there is daylight out there somewhere. But for the moment, for us to have been led by this corrupt bunch for what, the last 4 or 5 years, you can almost, and calls into question every aspect of the leadership structure of the police. They've put it, as I said, the decision of Judith Collins. You can see she was. I'll tell you what. If you'd given her one of the AK-47s that Nicole McKee's not allowed to bring into this country yesterday, oh, it would not have been an easy place to be. Yes, I am speaking ironically, just so for the New Zealand media who seem to take that literally the last time I said that. But the installation of an Inspector General of Police, I think, is the very start of the issues. You've got to rewrite the Police Act. You've got to allow a little bit more light and shine, and certainly a great deal more accountability and transparency than we currently see in the police. It's been a shocking day. I was shocked by it yesterday afternoon. I was watching it live and I was going, am I watching this? And then this morning, the additional revelations that the Minister of Police was betrayed by his own department. That's just extraordinary. And unparalleled, I would suggest to you, in the history of the New Zealand public sector since, well, the war, certainly in my lifetime, in my public lifetime, which is, believe it or not, quite extensive now. But there you go.